Sometimes you have to look back to move forward, back to where it all began. Most legendary stories have one beginning. Ours, it has four. The gallant pioneers. The four lads who had a dream that continues to be our reality. Our badge is the embodiment of this dream. Since 1872, it's been our legacy. Sure, it's changed over time, but what it stands for has remained the same. It's built into the fabric of our club, the fabric of our city, the fabric of the four, inspired by the first and inspired by the past. We were here before everyone else. Glasgow is our city and Ibrox is our home. Pride, loyalty, glory. But it's more than that. It signifies a way of life, the success, the legends who came, who saw, who conquered, the legends who are no longer with us, the heartache, the joy, the euphoria. From the very beginning of our story, from there all the way to here, still winning, but never standing still. A celebration of the first 150 years. This is a memento of where we were, who we are now and where we are going. Getting ready for the next chapter. Our history is our present, and thanks to the four, we have a legacy of ready.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Good evening, everybody. After a couple of weeks World Cup hiatus, Blue Hat 1872 is back, and you'll notice we're back without the gaffer because he's swanning off over to Ulster again. He's fair clocking up the air miles as well, Gary. But anyway, we'll crack on without him. Anyway, tonight we have got Mr. Stuart Finlay. Stuart, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very well, apart from being full of the cold.
Eating a Christmas card. And also with us, we've got John in Brisbane, who's not full of the cold because it's heading to the low 20s over Brisbane. John, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys? All right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, fine. Good. Glad to have proper football back. Right, before we start tonight, I want to clear something up with everybody. Our new manager's name, right? Our new Michael Beale or Mr. Beale. I'm not having any of this Mick Beale nonsense because he was never Mick Beale when he was here before. Aye, well, he was never Mick Beale when he was here before, so he's not Mick Beale now. He's Michael Beale or Mr. Beale, as far as I'm concerned.
Michael.
So now that we've got that out of the way, well, first thing to do tonight, I think we'll rewind a couple of weeks because we've not been here since before the AGM. So, Stuart, did you pick up anything out of the AGM that kind of made you go, "Oh, fuck"?
Yeah, that boy set the question up to Ross Wilson. I thought it was priceless. And then directed it to Stuart Robertson and the rest of the board, and the silence was deafening. It was. I just thought it was very eloquently put. There was no nastiness or anything in the questioner's voice. But yeah, it's. I just thought to myself, yeah, well done you, because I think we've all been singing from the hymn sheet regarding Mr. Wilson. But yeah, overall, I'm not a businessman. I don't take in a lot of what's said. A lot of the financials go way above my head. But yeah, you were there, Wolf. What was the ambience like in the auditorium?
It was much the same as any other AGM I've been to. I've been to quite a few over the last few years. There wasn't really anything untoward in the air. There wasn't the sort of atmosphere you possibly have expected prior to it. And I think they got off. The board got off quite lightly, but I mean, some of the questions that were asked for me, I get they're important to the people that asked them, but the AGM's not really the place for them to get asked. I think they did get off a bit. The board did get off a bit lightly, but let's be honest. The things that people were looking for, people were, we came out and people saying, "Oh, why did nobody mention Sydney or Elite?" Or all the board would have said was, "Look, there's legal cases going on in these. We can't talk about them." That's how they would have batted them away. I mean, John, did you pick up anything from the AGM? I know we're going back a couple of weeks, but
I did watch it, and the thing that one of the things that's been a sort of long-standing topic, if you like, is the disabled facilities, and the club announcing plans to, or a plan to deal with the disabled problem, which is not before time, But sometimes I always wonder about timing with these things. And obviously the board are under a serious flack going into that AGM. More so, they hadn't got a new manager in place or changed the manager prior to that. And all of a sudden, they've magically, I don't think they've magically come up with it, but it suited the agenda to get it in there and create the feel-good factor again. That things are getting done behind the scenes at the club.
Yeah, it was noticeable that they announced starting the night GM the Monday night that Rangers were going to be announcing these disabled facilities, which, by the way, look absolutely fantastic. I mean, I've been beating the drum about disabled facilities for long and weary. And I even did a podcast over on the Ramble with Heather Johnson, James's mum, and Tim Webb, who lives over in Northern Ireland. He's a wheelchair user, and Tim's been obviously goes to Windsor Park quite a lot. The facilities they've got fantastic compared to what we've got at Ibrox. But what they're doing, they've said it's starting in summer 23, so starting next summer, which is the first time they can really start it, because you can't really start that during the season, because they're losing about 1,000, and I think it's 1,073 seats they're losing for it. The only contentious thing that came out of that was, if they're losing seats out of that season ticket holder seats, who they're going to have to move. Now, people will move. I get that. That's not a problem. But the argument against having a safe standing area is they can't ask people to move their seats. So they are, a lot of people are saying after it, what's the difference? What is the difference? Why can't they have safe? I mean, I'm not particularly a fan of safe standing. I mean, I'm approaching the arse of the middle-aged man. I don't really want to be standing at football, although I don't mind standing at away games, but I don't, I'd like the option to sit down if I want to, but I get it. I get people clamour. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that, with that argument. But the disabled facilities, tremendous what they're going to do, and they're planning to claw back the seats if they can raise the finance for it by adding 900 extra seats in the front of the rear sections of the two stands behind the goal. That's quite innovative. That came out of the blue. That was never mentioned on the Monday. That all came out of the blue when they were going to add seats at the front.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all one bit, which I'm sure they'll be able to. But the thing for me, John, I mean, even when they were talking about the disabled facilities, the way around finance, we'll be losing these seats, and then we're going to have to try and finance bringing in more seats. And so, I mean, I don't know if these new seats they're going to be bringing in are going to be a sort of like a Club 72, and they're going to be premium seats, or if they're just going to be normal seats, at the front of the rear sections of the Coatwood and the Broomwood. I don't know, but time will tell if that even happens, because they stressed at the meeting that'll only happen if they can fund it. Disabled facilities are definitely happening, but the additional seats, the additional 1,800 seats, will only happen if they can get funded for it, and I'm sure they will. I'm sure they'll be able to get funded for it.
I think the additional seats, they'll just shove an extra £5 or a £10 on the season tickets. That's all they'll do, and they'll get that money in.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be a fairly process, to be fair. But Paul, they didn't specifically mention whether they'll be talking to fans more often, but I mean, if you go back a couple of weeks previous to the AGM, when the vice chairman came out and did his 2 or 3 part Rangers TV interview, he said that there would be more engagement. Well, that was what, 6 weeks ago now, and we haven't had a further engagement. So I would say probably they have to engage more with the supporters. You know, I mean, doing it at an AGM is all well and good. It's football, because shareholders that are there are supporters rather than business people. That's why you get some of the questions like, why is there no stocking fillers in the shop, which miraculously appeared 3 days later. You know what I mean? But it's things like that. That's an email to the club job, isn't it? You know what I mean? Really, with no disrespect to the guy that asked the question in case he's watching, but that's, you know, I mean, I can't really speak because I've been to, as I say, quite a few of these and never asked a question yet. So I'm quite a shy and retiring guy, so I don't really like to put myself in the firing line.
Oh yeah, I know how you feel, Wolf.
You know. Okay, Stuart. Fine. Okay, so we'll move on. I just want to touch on the AGM because we haven't been on since it, you know, since it was there. There was no really any major talking points. I think they did get away a bit lightly, to be fair.
Yeah, totally agree.
And Stuart Robertson was quite cute as well, because he made it sound as if it lasted longer than they wanted it to, because he said it was supposed to wrap up at 12:15 and they finished at about 10 past. But there were still loads of people wanting to ask questions. And I mean, I was at an AGM a few years ago that lasted 2.5 hours because there were so many questions. You know what I mean? So they were obviously expecting a rocky time and said, look out here by lunchtime. You know what I mean? And it was noticeable to me as well, the chairman hardly spoke, because normally the chairman gets up and gives a big speech, a big address, but he hardly said a word. It was all kind of done on his behalf. And then they interviewed. I think, as John says, they got away because they brought in a new manager, so they spent quite a period of the time in a wee chat with the new manager, which was great. Nice to hear from him. I like listening to Mr. Beale. But that, you know, that sort of took away from the fact the chairman didn't say very much, you know. But what he did say that was noticeable to me when somebody asked a question about contracts was that he said, look, in any business deal, and sometimes you make your best offer. If your best offer's not good enough, then you've just got to put your hands up and walk away and say, right, okay, fair enough. Which brings me very, very nicely. You think I'd done this before, right? Into our 2 high-profile out-of-contract guys at the end of the season, Mr. Morelos and Mr. Kent. I think that was a specific from Douglas Park that we've made them an offer and basically it's just not good enough. So, John, do you think there's any chance either or both of them will be staying?
I think it'll be dependent on who wants them, really. You know, I still think both of them have got deals set up. You know, I've said it consistently over the season, because you couldn't go through the motions and play as badly and be as out of shape as Morelos is and not have something up your sleeve. You know what I mean? If he's looking for a move, he's never going to sort of attract the suitors that he should be attracting. If he's like overweight and unfit and no producing on the park, pissing about, and Kent going about with the poor body language that he has up until, I would say, Wednesday night or Thursday night rather. So I don't know. You know, we all thought Connor Golson was leaving, and lo and behold, he signs a 4-year deal after his contract expires. But again, did Connor Golson, you know, was there clubs lining up to sign him that he would have went to? I don't know.
I think from what I can glean, the whole Connor Golson thing was, it sounded to me very much like Brighton were in for a few quid if he extended his contract, but if he let it run out and then signed another one, it was like he was under freedom of contract. So that would probably be more money in his pocket than Brighton's. Yeah. So I don't know that. That's just kind of speculation. We don't know that, but it may well be the same. There's rumours or questions starting to be asked if it's possibly the same way, you know, Kent and Morelos. You know,
but
whether it's a similar sort of situation.
Players have got a shelf life at clubs, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, you get some that you think I've never, you know, they've always been there, but there comes a time, I think, and maybe their time's up. Maybe it's time to just push on and start bringing the younger players through. Some of them into the fold. And I think Michael Beale will do that. I think there'll be more young players getting a chance, because that's the sort of area he's worked in his coaching career, his development. So I reckon we'll see a good few of the young lads getting put into the team throughout the rest of the season and going forward.
Stuart, you think John's right? You think that that they've both reached the end of the shelf life, or?
Yeah, I think there's
and if they have time punting man, we just let them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in what John's saying. Historically, we know that players have a shelf life at a club, especially in the last 10, 20 years. Because gone are the days, really, where you've got a player that'll stay at a club for like 12, 15 years. I think Morelos is, even though I love him a bit, I think he's definitely must have something lined up. But you never know with Mr. Beale coming out in the press conference saying he's going to play two up front. That might just be the thing that might kickstart Morelos. But what I have noticed since Saturday and last night, there's been a little bit of a spark put back into Ryan Kent, because I thought he played really well on Saturday, and then last night he didn't give up. Where we've seen the early part of the season that when things weren't going his way, he would go down on one knee and pull his socks up or tie his lace or something like that. He just didn't give up. Last night he still tried to do the things that we know we can do in previous seasons. But the way Michael Beale likes to set up his teams, he likes his wingers to be like inverted wingers and play like 2-10s. And that's what I've noticed over the last two games. Is Kent going to be the player that's going to be doing that? Because we've got so many players unfortunately, that are injured at the moment, but some youngsters that can play in them positions as well. So yeah, if they have got things lined up, just put your arse in gear. Let us get to 56 this season, and then you can quite happily go with my plaudits.
I think it would be some sort of stretch to win the league this year from where we are, I think. But I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not writing it off at all. But I mean, basically we're starting. I mean, Michael Beale's coming in and he's starting from 9 points back. You know what I mean? That basically means we're going to have to win every game and they're going to have to lose 4, which probably isn't going to happen. But you never know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he can. But I mean, to me, it's very much an Alec McLeish situation. He came in with the league gone. One is 2 cups, then one is a treble. That'll do me. I'll take that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would take a repeat of that. So I mean, like I say, if Stuart, would you try and punt it if they're not going to stay? Would you try and punt them in the summer? Given in the winter, the January window. I mean, given that to all intents and purposes, the league's a fucking very, very hard ask from here. Right? Would you try and get rid of one? Just try and cut the losses and bring someone in. Do you think one of them might stay?
I think possibly one or t'other might stay, but dependent who might come in for them. As you said, if we do get a bid in for both, I cannot on both players' forms. I think Ryan Kent would go the championship player in England at the moment with the performances that he's put over the last 4 or 5 months, and the tail end of last season. Morelos, I don't think he'll go to England. I think if he was going to go anywhere, it'll be abroad. But yeah, it all depends who comes in for them. But there's no way a Premiership club is going to come in for Ryan Kent on the form that he has displayed in the last.
No, you're right.
I would say in the last
you're
12
right.
months.
John, do you think there's a chance
And I
that
mean-
like maybe a lower league Premiership club might come in for Morelos in January, given that they know that if his head's right, he can score goals, and maybe somebody that's struggling to stay up, struggling to score goals, maybe a kind of like, I don't know, an Aston Villa or somebody that's down that down that way.
Yeah.
I think they might take a punt on him.
I think if it's Aston Villa, Morelos will definitely be interested, because Aston Villa are a big club. Don't be kidded with where they are in the league. They're big setup and all that, and they always have been. But I don't think Morelos would go to down to teams that they sort of your Bournemouths and all that. I don't think he would go to a club like that. I think, as Stuart said, he's more likely to go abroad. I would say that the two of them, if one was to stay, it's difficult because Morelos has been here for such a long time. He might just fancy signing on again. I don't know, but it's not looking good at the minute. And I still think that both of them have got irons in the fire and always have had irons in the fire, or their agents have, for moving this year. Unless they're just
Teddy Bears makes a
yeah.
Yeah, well, Teddy Bears makes a point here. Partly Alfie's on 33 grand a week, which I've heard that as well, and he's asking for 35. I've not heard that, and that would be ridiculous. I mean, that would be, what would that be? A 30, maybe roughly a 30-35% pay increase. The way he's playing, the shape he's in, that's never going to happen. As Teddy Bears says, what universe does he think he deserves anything like that? And as you say, John, they must have something lined up. Probably Morelos, because he looks completely out of shape,
Yeah.
And he's not going to impress any prospective suitors. The way that he's playing, he'll always score you goals, but the way that he looks, So I mean, personally, if they were both to go, I would be looking to try and get money for them in January. But
I think with Morelos to kickstart him, and this is just, he's always had these sort of grievances, battles with Celtic, and I think if he's involved in January the 2nd and he manages to score a goal, or it's a ding dong game and it's one of the it's right up his street, it might whet his appetite to stay at the club. And because it might just show him that this is where you belong, and this is your stage. You know what I mean? And these are the people you play for, and go out and do it. And sign a new deal. I love Morelos. I mean, I've always been a big Morelos fan, but his attitude and the condition he's in isn't good enough. But only he can sort that.
Yep, I love him as well. I mean, one thing the two of them have got to realise, they'll maybe play on a bigger stage, but they'll never ever play for a bigger club. I mean, that's just a fact that neither of the two of them will ever play for a bigger club than Glasgow Rangers. Yeah. So, and Paul, I really hope you're right. That he scores on Tuesday. I really hope you're right. I'll be happy if he is involved in the game that we win and he doesn't get sent off, to be perfectly honest. But because you know what he's like against that lot. Anyway, talking about games, we had a game last night. Okay, we played Leverkusen last Saturday. Can't really draw too many conclusions from that, because it was a kickabout effectively against a team that don't play again until mid-January. They are miles behind us in the back to training kind of stakes, because I think they've got four games over 4 consecutive weekends. Ours was the first, so they're well behind us. But having said that, 3-0 win against a team like Leverkusen, it looks good. We played quite well. But last night we got back to the serious stuff when we played Hibs at Ibrox. I know you both saw the game. I was lucky enough to be sitting there freezing my knackers off at the game. It really was. I was
freezing my knackers off here, Wilf.
Yeah, you said with your boiler problems, yeah. I mean, they said it was going to be cold, and then when Rangers put out a tweet saying it's going to be cold, I thought, hold on, if they're telling us it's going to be cold, it's going to be cold, because normally they don't give a monkeys about us, Yeah. But it really was. I mean, it was ridiculously cold, but it was, as you said earlier, Stuart, before we came live, it was certainly a game of two halves.
Oh yeah, definitely. when I seen the team sheet, I was a bit like yourself, Wolf, as we talked offline. How the hell has you got Lundstrom playing centre half with Sands? And then I automatically must have thought that there must be an injury of some sort, but there'd been nothing said, which is understandable because it would have gave the game away. But starting the game with basically two midfielders and a right back playing left back, I thought, well, yeah, and fair play to Devine, Adam Devine, yeah, I thought he had a great game. Even though they targeted him first half with the long balls to go down them channels, I thought he coped really well. But then the goal, why? I'm 5'5", and I could have defended at that point, because all you've got to do is just put a nudge in to stop him having that momentum to go up and head with that ball into the net. But there was just no marking on him. I think I don't even know who was supposed to be man marking him.
Lundstrom.
Was it Lundstrom? Oh, Darren will love that. He will.
Right.
But yeah, first goal we go 1-0 down, which was, and it was a fact that I think I'd listened to it on the Rabble. It was that was our first headed goal from a corner this season in the league.
Domestically.
Yeah, domestically.
I was,
I thought.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've conceded more, but by the by. But then we get back to 1-1. And luckily, I stood up and went through the kitchen to get a drink. And then it just went silent in the living room. And I knew something had went wrong. So I've not even seen their second goal.
Shocking.
But
although, John, it's not as shocking as it appeared at the time. I mean, from where I was sitting in my seat in CD1, it just looked like it was a straight pass through the middle, and the ball was a good finish by the way, to be fair. But then after the game, people were telling me that the ball was heading straight for Sands, and it took a deflection straight into his path. Now I had to watch it 3 times to see that deflection.
Yeah, there was a deflection, but the marking was poor. You know, let's be honest. To get back into the game and lose a goal within about fucking 20 seconds is ridiculous. You know, that just shows you the frailties, that are still in this team. And the first goal, God, ball into the box and everybody's just standing looking at it. Porteous gets a free header and that's just bread and butter stuff. All this zonal marking, I'm not a fan of it, and I'd just rather everybody picks a man up and somebody attacks the ball, old style football. Go and defend your box and stop hanging about waiting on somebody else doing the job. That seems to be the thing with the zonal marking. Everybody's waiting who's doing this, and it seems to sort of bite us in the arse all the time.
Yeah.
But you can't get back into a game and lose the lead within. And we've done this all season. We've got back into games or scored in games and within a couple of minutes. I mean, the Europa League final is a prime example. We got a goal up and we held it for 12 minutes. We don't seem to hold on to stuff pretty long,
Yeah. I mean, for me, that first goal was preventable because the corner came off a decent save from McGregor when the boy the shot from about 20 yards. That shot should have been blocked in the first place, like what they were doing to us. So it should never have been a corner in the first place. But the defending was. I mean, it was Lundstrom lost Porteous, and then Tillman just stood and looked at him. You know what I mean? It was just a ridiculous goal to lose. Ridiculous goal. And then, as you say, Stuart, we scored a decent goal, good finish. Young lad sitting behind me, young Alex is like that. Put your laces through it as Sakala stroked it into the net, and you went for a drink. I was in the process of telling Alex to leave the ground for his stupid comment. Turned round and they scored. You know what I mean? Just ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. But I mean, in at half time, 2-1, and I was fully expecting a couple of substitutions. I couldn't, because obviously at this time, I didn't know what had happened with the defence. When we saw the team, I was trying to work out what he was going to do. I couldn't see it lining up the way it lined up. I'm trying to think, well, is he going to put Jack at right back and stick Taven at centre half in beside Sands and put Lundstrom in midfield? And because you put Lundstrom at centre half, he's lost in there, and also you lose him as a midfield player. You know, which was quite telling as well.
Do you know what the big difference was for me, Wolf? See, when we went in at half time, 2-1 down, I knew we would come out fighting. Whereas if this had been 5-6 weeks ago, we would never have won that game. We would never have won that game.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So there was just the new feel of Michael Beale coming in. And yeah, fair enough, Saturday was a friendly. Thursday was the first competitive game. But there was, on Saturday, there was a feel-good factor. And you could see there was we were trying to play a style of football that bear in mind, he'd only had 2 weeks with the players. But there was a style of football. The first half against Hibs, but you got to remember, we're playing with a makeshift defence for a start. 2-1 going in. Yeah, I was gutted, but I wasn't downhearted, if that makes sense, because I knew, and I had a really good feeling we were going to come out fighting in the second half, and we did.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit perplexed, but I mean, their second goal just sucked the air right out of the stadium. As I say, John, I was expecting some sort of change. We were all sort of sitting talking and saying, look, why the defence is an absolute car crash, and he's got a centre half on the bench. We just couldn't understand why Brent Davies was sitting on the bench when we had absolutely nothing. I mean, Lundstrom's lost. Sands needs a centre half beside him. We're talking through it. We've got a young right back at left back, and we've got centre back sitting on the bench. We just couldn't understand it.
Well, look, he changed it slightly. Tactically, he changed it because start of the second half, Ryan Jack dropped in, and they had three. They kind of had three centre backs. They had Lundstrom, Sands, and Jack, and that allowed Devine and Tav to pump up the lines. And then later in the game, once we got in front, when or got back in level terms, he brought Stephen Davis on, and he dropped a bit deeper as well, just to fill that role. So it's good to see that that obviously we've got a manager now that's I'm not saying Gio wasn't tactically aware, but he was dogged and he was stuck in his ways. But Beale seems to, based on the evidence of last night, that he's capable of changing the formation and tweaking it to suit the circumstance. But yeah, that was a good performance in the second half, and it's no more than we should expect, to be honest with you.
Yeah, second thought. I mean, it was, as you say, Stuart, total game of two halves. The second half, we were. I mean, I think it was partly because Hibs came out and kind of thought, well, we'll just hold what we've got. Just do what teams tend to do if they're winning at Ibrox. They'll just say, well, we'll try and hold what we've got, and if we can nick another one, great. But I mean, we just rolled all over the top of them. I mean, as John said, Jack came onto a game. I thought Kent improved. Devine had a solid enough second half. It was chalk and cheese to the first half.
Do you know the one big thing that I took from the second half, from the first half? The first half, I don't think Ryan Kent, I'm not saying fully trusted, but I don't think Kent thought that Devine could do what he was doing. But in the second half, there was a little bit of more, I've seen what this young lad's doing behind me and then making the runs past me and creating space and all that kind of thing. And I think Ryan Kent then took it upon himself to then give him a little bit more. Instead of Ryan Kent cutting inside, he was waiting for, like what Borna does, bombs past him, slipping the ball in, and Devine put a cross in. There was more trust, or more of a footballing relationship starting in that second half, because think Ryan realised what this young lad was capable of, and I'll be quite honest. Adam Devine was man of the match for me.
Yeah, I said that as well, Stuart. I agree with you.
Man of the match.
Yeah, I thought so as well.
And carry on, John.
He made a few of those runs in the first half, and Kent didn't give him the ball. You know, he did overlap and get into that pocket of space, and Kent didn't play him in. Kent elected to either hold the ball or go further inside, drive infield. But I mean, that's it's probably in a way Kent might not want to put him under pressure, maybe stick about him, and he loses the ball, and the fans start to, you know, I don't know. Kent might have been playing the more experienced sort of professional there, and sort of, as you say, you've got to trust him. Maybe Michael Beale said at half time, look, start playing him in. He's making good runs. You'll never know what he can do unless you give him the ball.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the fact was making those runs second half more in the second half helped Kent as well, because Kent didn't really get a lot of change out of that fullback in the first half. You know, he lost the ball to him a couple of times, but second half he was getting a bit more space to get around them. You know, and obviously, as you say, playing in Devine as well. You know, I mean, and for me, Devine put in a couple of absolutely cracking balls. It wasn't just endlessly throwing it into space like what we normally do. You know, I thought he did a terrific game. You know,
yeah.
You know,
and for a young lad that's supposedly playing out of position, he didn't look out of place. He did not. Even in the first half when they were bombarding him. Because when you see the stats in the first half with the Hibs attack, I think it was 59% was going down his side of the pitch, and he didn't look out of place. Did not look out of place.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a different kettle of fish, because he'll probably have to play at Pittodrie on Tuesday, and that'll be a different test for him, because it's a tighter pitch. The fans are a lot more in your face as well. It'll be a hostile atmosphere, but I'm sure the young lads can come. I've seen them many times. I'm sure the young lads can cope with it. So we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But all in all, last night, good to go out of there. And the refreshing thing for me is the manager came out at the end of it and said, "Look, we weren't very good."
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't trying to sugarcoat it and saying, "Well, this and that." He said, "Look, we weren't. First half we were terrible. We worked it out at half time. Told them to just do what they're good at, and we'll go out and we'll win 2-0 second half," which is exactly what we did. You know, and I mean that's what I like.
If somebody had said to me
so far, you know what I mean? I mean, all we were getting previously was injured players. They'll be back after the World Cup. That's all we were getting. I mean, we found out last night after the game that Red Van Yilmaz has got a 12-week injury, and he's 7 weeks into it. Nobody had a clue. Nobody knew what was the matter with Yilmaz. You know, so we now know it's going to be the end of January at the earliest we see him. Yeah, but we didn't know how bad it was.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
I mean,
but the one thing I take a real positive from last night, from when the team sheet was released online, if somebody had said to me, "You'll go in at half time 2-1 down and then win 3-2," I'd have snapped your fucking hand off.
Yeah.
We're playing two midfielders in centre half, a right back playing left back. I would have snapped your hand off. And the performance, more importantly, the performance we put in the second half just showed the guts that this team's starting to develop again, in my opinion.
100%.
Because we know Hibs are a real doggish thorn in our side team. And yeah, there was a team mentality last night.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stuart. I think I said that to Demi coming out last night, that 6 weeks ago we lose that game. 6 weeks ago, the way that game was going at half time, we lose that game, we'll probably lose it quite heavily. You know, and to take up Terry Monroe's question, Terry, good evening. It's always nice to have you with us. Do we still get paid for Borna being away since Croatia still over there? Yes, I believe it's something like $8,500 a day that he's out there on World Cup duty, which is wonderful. It's extra cash for us. The downside of that is that one of their guys is over there as well, that Juranovic dude, so they're getting so really any advantage financially for us over them. But yeah, I believe we do. I also believe there's a FIFA protocol that players that get in the are entitled to a 2-week holiday at the end of it. Now, obviously, it's a player's choice whether they take it or not. So I wouldn't be expecting to see Borna much before the Celtic game. Certainly won't see him next week. There's not a ghost that he plays on Tuesday because he probably won't even be back. I can't see him getting drafted in.
There's no way he's playing in Ross County.
So it'll be after. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. He could conceivably be back by then, but I can't see him playing. Yeah, I can't see him playing.
No.
So at the earliest, Motherwell on the 28th, but I can't even really see that, to be honest. Because let's be honest.
What an opportunity.
What
an opportunity for Adam Devine.
Well,
what an
absolutely. I mean, let's be honest, right? If Motherwell's the first game he'd be back available for, if we can't beat Motherwell without Borna Barisic, we've got fucking bigger problems than we realise. You know what I mean? To be perfectly honest. You know? So
it's a true saying, isn't it? You're always a better player when you're not in the team.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. There's Paul. There's telling us 270 grand. Before the last game. So you're probably talking about 300k for him there, which is not a bad wee lift. But as I say, unfortunately, it's not giving us any financial advantage on that other lot because they've got one out there and he's actually playing. Although I do expect Borna to play tomorrow in the illustrious third and fourth place game.
I don't know. I think Croatia.
I'm looking for here to be put on. What was that, Stuart?
I think Croatia will still play so.
You think? Well, Borna's only played
yeah.
one game. I think they'll put him in games from game time.
It all depends on how much.
There was a comment. I can't find it. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There was a comment there from somebody, and at least we want to find it nicely. My next point: do we need to fork out for a goalkeeper? John.
Well, let's put it this way, right? We keep banging the drum about Robbie McCrory. Personally, I don't think it's going to happen for Robbie McCrory at Rangers. I would like to. I would like to think it would. It would be good enough, and we could trust him enough to come in and come through the system and be Rangers' #1 goalkeeper. That would be a good feather in the cap of the coaches at the club. But he's been there that long, and if he still isn't in the first team or even a reserve goalkeeper, second choice at this stage in his career, then I think it's time he moves on for his own sake and does something elsewhere. We've seen it over the years with guys like Liam Kelly and all these other goalkeepers that have been in the system, haven't quite broken in, and they've gone on, and now Kelly's at Motherwell, club captain and all that stuff. So the boy needs to move on. I still think we need to get a quality goalkeeper in though, maybe two.
No,
I don't think John McLaughlin's going to want to hang around to be number 2 at his age. I think that there might be developments there at the end of the season with John McLaughlin. He got his chance this season.
I think with John McLaughlin, he got his chance at the start of the season and he didn't take it. You know what I mean? I mean, Griggsy didn't play start of the season. They got the gloves, just didn't take it. So. Yeah. I agree. I think we certainly need to bring a keeper in because this has got to be McGregor's last season. Last season should have been his last season. You know, the Robbie McCrory thing. It's telling for me that even in League Cup games against lower league teams, he's still not getting a shout because McLaughlin's getting it. Even although he didn't take his opportunity when he was in the team. So for me, McCrory's only still with us because he's a Scottish player for the European squad. Well, that's not an issue now till after the summer. So for me, he probably has to go. He probably has to go, and we should be bringing one in, And I think we possibly missed a trick with Big Xander Clark, who's now at Hearts, went to Hearts on a free. Now Xander Clark, in the words of his brother, right, is not Rangers class, but he's better than what we've got, and I agree with that because at the moment none of the three of them are Rangers class in the class of goalkeepers we've got. McGregor used to be, isn't anymore. Although he's still a very serviceable goalkeeper, but you know what I mean. I don't think he should have been here this season, but he is, and he's what we've got. So, but I mean, there's a comment in the comments. It's rolled past as well. I'm not going to go back and find it. That we probably have got more important areas to spend money on it, like in January, because the goalkeepers we've got will do us for Scotland, let's be honest, because we're not up against much apart from the times we play that other lot. So we should probably be bringing in, I don't know, do we need to bring in a centre-half because all the injuries we've got? But then, are we over? We've talked about it before. Does that mean we're overloaded because, well, Suter's supposed to be back mid to late January? We can forget about Helander because he'll not be back. Goldson is back in training. Davies is back in training. So if Suter then comes back and we sign another centre-half, are we overloaded then with centre-halves? It's a difficult question.
We're overloaded in two areas. I do. Unfortunately, there's injuries in both areas. So if you think along the lines of the centre-halves you've just talked about, I don't think we'll ever see Helander back in a Rangers jersey again. But Goldson's back in training. I don't know how long Suter's much longer out for. But there's another area of the pitch that we're going to be equally overloaded when the injured players come back. When you think about the number 10 situation or our forward-thinking midfield, we've got Tom Lawrence coming back, we've got Yanis Hadji coming back. We've got Tillman, we've got Matondo, we've got Kent, because Michael Beale seems to be looking to play in this inverted winger system, so your wingers can play in a number 10 position. So potentially we've got 5 or 6 players that are going to be playing in that position or vying for that position as well. So
you forget Alex Lowry.
Yeah, Charlie McCann. So we're overloaded or potentially overloaded in 2 areas of the pitch. Personally, I think we need to sign another centre forward, and I think we do need to sign a goalkeeper, even if it's pre-contract in January, to come in for the start of next season. Agree about McCrory. I think his time has come, or else he's going to end up like Andy Firth, just being the ball carrier, just being the one there to be taking shots at. What about the young lad in the B team, Wilf? I can't pronounce his name. Do you think he's
Lucas Budanauskas?
Yeah, that's it. Do you think he's ready to step up and become first team?
No.
Maybe second or third choice? Not yet.
No. But I think it's interesting. I believe that Mr. Beale started referencing these guys like Kieran Wright and Bud. He started referencing them, so he's maybe thinking that one of them will become McCrory, and then we'll possibly have McLaughlin as number 2. But as John says, I can't see him quite up. I can't see him sitting as number 2 again, and then another number 1. So I mean, yeah, you probably could have one of the young keepers as your second choice, because how often do you actually need, play him in the early rounds of the League Cup, But I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting going forward. What happens with the goalkeeping situation. As for the Suter thing, John, I believe that the manager said he's looking to have him back mid-January.
Yeah.
So that would be.
And that's an entire. That's an entire. If you take into account, we signed him in a pre-contract last January. I know he didn't come to the club till after the season finished, but it's a calendar year almost, and he's played one game, 2 games. So it's. I would still think we're even though we've got Leon King, we've got Goldson, we've got Davis, we've got Suter. I think we probably need to bring in another centre half. I still think another centre half wouldn't go amiss, and it would allow us to play 3 at the back if we wanted to do that.
Yeah, I think, John, to do that we need to offload somebody, because the wage bill's already about 5 million over for what the planned budget was for it. So we probably need to offload some of that. But I mean, the interesting thing with Goldson, and I didn't realise it till I saw it earlier on, and I checked it, that since Goldson's been out for 10.5 games, because he went off in the first half of the game, he went off, right? In that time, we've conceded 20 goals and kept 2 clean sheets. Now, I know, as you said earlier, John, you become a better player when you're not playing, in the minds of the supporters. But that's a hell of a start. In 10 games, we've lost 20 goals because he's not been there.
Golson's one of our biggest, if not the biggest player in that defence. He's the guy that's consistently knocking the numbers at. Okay, he's prone to a mistake like everybody else. There's always there's always that slight, he'll give a goal away now and again, but he's just a massive player on the pitch. To me, he's more of a sort of driving force than Tavares. When they go and getting tough, captain if you like. But I can't wait to get him back in the team. And I think the fans now, anybody that had any doubts about him, will appreciate him more.
Yeah, totally agree, John. I think
John, you've got your fan club's online tonight.
Yeah.
I think what we've missed with Goldson as well. I think what we've missed with Goldson as well is his distribution from the back. So when we do need that 50, 60-yard ball down into the channel, he can play that. And we've really missed that to relieve some pressure at times against some of the teams we've played against since his injury.
Yeah, no, you're right. But hopefully, he's back. He's back in manager last night. He'd only had 2 training sessions, so hopefully he was in today and he's in tomorrow and he's in on Sunday, and hopefully we could really do with Goldson at Pizzordi on Tuesday night, because they'll be right up for it. You know what I mean? But we'll come to that. We'll get on to that. A couple of other things before we go, because time's racing on, and I promised Carl this would only last about an hour.
I'm the same in morning.
Last Sunday, the Rangers women's team, and I like to have a wee chat about the women's team, because I like it. I love everything Rangers.
I saw you and Demi on the trailer, the Rangers trailer.
Aye, on the that was quite interesting. That was good. Quite funny, because if you see the one that was taken outside, I've got the colours on, and there's the one in the shop with the meat and
the whole thing. Yeah,
I've got no colours on, because I was actually doing press for the rabble, so I couldn't actually have colours in view.
Yeah.
So but I had them on, obviously. But yeah, the ladies, they paraded the cup at half time yesterday after they beat Hibs on Sunday 2-0 at Tynecastle. I don't know if you saw the game or if you've seen the highlights, but 2 absolutely cracking goals.
Yeah,
watched it. Lizzie Arnott's first goal. Lizzie Arnott's goal was just simple line. Absolutely simple.
I was watching the game. I was sitting in the press area at Tynecastle with Brian from the Rabble, and he looked at me and he went, "Do you think she meant that?" I said, "Of course she fucking meant that." I had the laptop with Sky on, so we watched the replay back on Sky, and 100% she meant that. She looked up and it was a great finish. Yeah, terrific finish.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then the
one disappointment I had with the ladies team on Sunday there was, I think, is it the midfielder, the Dutch midfielder we've got, is it Middag?
Yeah.
I've seen some clips of the free kicks that she actually takes when she bombards at goal. She couldn't have buy one. She couldn't have won one at a raffle on Sunday, and I thought that was. But one of the positive things was she never gave up. Every time it became a free kick, like 20, 25 yards from goal, yeah, I'm still having it. She was telling Lizzie Arnott to just do one. And Sam Kerr, just do one. I'm taking this.
But the thing for me is as good as Tess has it, those things, Stuart, the thing for me is it's too predictable, because we get one there, she's always going to hit it all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll be honest with you, right? I don't watch the ladies team as much as I give them where I stay and when they play and stuff like that. But I do watch all the highlights, watch as many of the games as I can. I'll be amazed if she's still a Rangers player next season, because she could be going on to bigger and better things. Again, she'll never play for a bigger club, but she'll play in bigger leagues, because she's an absolute Rolls Royce of a player. She really, really is.
Well, I think she's got 40 plus caps for Holland, hasn't she?
Yep. She's a terrific player.
43 or 46. But yeah,
she's a terrific player. Yeah. And then the second goal just topped it off, just brilliant, because we needed that second goal. You know, we just needed that second goal. And then the thing for me, John, I don't know.
Carry on, Wolf.
When you go, Stuart. On you go.
No, well, what was I saying? When it was just 1-0, and I kept on saying to Maureen when we were watching it, it was a case of we need to get a second. We need to get a second because all it's going to take is one break up the pitch. Because a couple of the 2 or 3 of the Hibs players looked actually quite tidy on Sunday, and they were causing some little problems, not major but little problems. And then we got the second goal, and then it was the rest is history.
Yeah, I think Hibs.
Who could deny the smile on Nicola Docherty's face when she was shaking the champagne?
Well, I don't know if it showed you on the telly. It certainly showed you on the Rangers TV stuff later that she's running about with the Union Bears' great big flag. I mean, Nick Dock's got the flag and she's running about with it. You know, I mean, for me, the good thing for me, I was disappointed in the crowd. It was just over 3,700. I was really disappointed in that. As I think it's just before Christmas and it's the day after the first team's played a game that we've all had to pay for because it's not in the season ticket. And I get all that. And somebody tweeted me and said the Women's Scottish Cup final 10 years ago was 600 folk at it. So it is coming on in leaps and bounds. But it's still disappointing for me when you consider there was 8,000 at the Edinburgh Derby 2 weeks ago. But one of them. But what the refreshing thing for me is the ladies did what they do after every game. They still went to the supporters. You know, one of the younger teams was there. Malky Thompson was basically giving them a team talk after the game because they'd been there to watch the game. The girls went up with the trophy and it was just the interaction they've got with their supporters is fantastic. Yeah. You couldn't, I mean, they'll not be able to keep doing that if the women's game takes off and they're getting massive crowds like they do in England. But it's at the moment, it's refreshing to see. You know, really is refreshing to see.
Totally agree.
But enough about that. I've actually got the programme sitting here still. Look, there we go. So I'd like to thank the SWPL and Sky Sports for my free programme as well. I thought it was quite nice though. After I'd already bought one outside, but anyway. So before we finish up, John, I know there's one thing you particularly wanted us to talk about, and you're quite right. That I believe
the changing of the guard in the dressing room. Or not the changing of the guard, but I believe Her Majesty's portrait still hangs above the door in the dressing room, and the King now sits above the captain's seat in the changing room. So it's good to see the traditions at the club still continuing with King Charles in the changing room.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, 100%, absolutely 100%. Yeah, I mean I see John's got a picture of the Queen Stuart's got a picture of the Queen just behind his head there. It's nice to see.
I've got one of the King coming as well quite soon.
Good. It's great just to see the traditions carrying on. You know, I mean, talking about this kind of Michael Beale brought back. You know, the players have to wear suits when they're going into Ibrox. I mean, that to me, fantastic. That's just the way it should be. Yeah. I mean, there's arguments all over social media. Well, they should be wearing tracksuits. It's not comfortable, but it doesn't make them play any better. It doesn't matter whether it won't make them play any better. You know, there's all these. Well, the players turning up in a suit won't make them win a game. Well, no, it won't, but it make them look better. You know what I mean? And it won't make them win a game any less. So let's just get the tradition. We're Rangers. That's why we're different. For me, that's why we're different. You know? I mean, I know we're all old way shouting at clouds, but to me, that's just what it should be. You know what I mean? It's the traditions. It's just, I think it's wonderful.
The comfort should be in the fact that you're wearing a collar and tie and a suit representing Rangers Football Club.
End of.
Correct. Totally agree.
Right. Yep. I mean, I'm going to have a little bit of a moan here, right? Yanis Hadji went into the ground yesterday maybe about 20 past 7. He walked past where I was standing. He parked his car in the school car park and walked in. And that's fine. And he's got the suit on. And I get he's an injured player, right? But to me, he's still going to his work. He should have had a suit on. For me. And Ben Davies was the same and sat on at the Leverkusen game because I saw photos of him in the hospitality with the tracksuit on and all that. For me, if they're in there, they should have a suit on. I don't care if they're injured players.
Totally agree.
You know what I mean?
Totally agree.
If they're only going to the game with their pals, that's fine. Just go dressed any way you like. But if they're there, going in through the front door, using the club facilities, and all that, they should be dressed properly. But yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, the photo getting changed. The fact that the club made a big thing about it as well. That they could just have done it, and then the first you would see it was somebody's doing a tour and they post it on their social media. So look, the picture's changed. But the club made a big thing of the Kings in the dressing room, and that to me is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
don't agree.
Yep, and that's a good point with Paul. Gerard wanted to change the panelling in the dressing room. To be fair, what they've done to the dressing room and the whole behind the scenes area, they've updated it, but they've kept the traditions of it. The wood panelling's still there, but they've got other stuff in it, and it actually looks really good. I haven't been in the first team dressing room since I've done that, but I've been in other parts. I've been lucky in the tunnel before the sleep out and stuff like that. And it looks really, really good, but it's not taken away from the tradition of it all. Yeah. They've updated all the pictures and stuff like that, and it just we look like a 21st century football club, but with 19th century traditions behind it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's absolutely brilliant. Before we go, because that's just over the hour.
Can I just do
and Carol will be going nuts for me.
Can I just add something, if you don't mind?
Absolutely, John. I was just going to come and say any other business on the floor of the lodge.
Yeah. Worshipful Master.
Only for another 3 weeks.
But anyway. Yeah, I'd just like to ask everyone. I'm just signed up to a new walking challenge. I'm going to be doing the Trek 26 for Alzheimer's Society. And what the Trek 26 is, I will be walking 26 miles around Salisbury Plains, around Stonehenge in September. Now, I'm not asking for donations. What I'm actually doing at the moment is I'm selling football cards every month. And the last one was quite sold out within a couple of weeks. But on the build up to Christmas, I've started a football card at £10 a team. There's 40 teams, and there's going to be £250 to the winner, and £150 will get donated to the Alzheimer's Society. Rather than ask for donations, I'll put a link up on the Blue Heart 1872 Facebook page and the Twitter page. And if anybody would like to take a team, please either PM me or DM me, and hopefully somebody can win £250 a bonus for Christmas or for New Year. It's this is a big one I'm doing for Christmas. All the rest of the ones from after that will be like £2.50 a team, and winning £100 rather than the £250. So if anybody's interested, by all means, either PM me or DM me, and just want to raise some money for another fantastic charity that I hold dear to my heart.
Yeah, fabulous cause, Stuart. You can count me in for a couple of those.
Yeah.
And
no worries, thank you very much.
We'll sort that out in the coming days, no problem at all. So before we go, we won't be back again until after we beat the Sheep on Tuesday. So I'm not going to ask you if nobody's got any clue how we're going to line up. But Stuart, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, Aberdeen versus Rangers. Score prediction, please. Yes, please.
Do you know what? I think we're going to go out and batter them. I think it's going to be 3-1. And I know I'm a bit like you, Wolf. I don't like saying that they're going to score against us, but I think we're going to the score line will flatter them rather than us, because I think we're going to go out and batter them. And I hope a lot of my Northeast sheep friends are watching this podcast, because I know some of them do. We're going to batter you.
Good. John?
Going to go 3-2 Rangers. I think it's going to be a similar battle that we had last night. So, and it'll be the same result, 3-2.
Okay.
I
hope you're both wrong. I don't like us conceding goals. I'll settle for 3. I'll go for 3-0. But what I will say is I hope there isn't a goal in the first 10 or 15 minutes, because I may well miss the first 10 or 15 minutes of the game because it's my lodge AGM on Tuesday, which It's starting early, starting at 7. I should make it, hopefully, around about kick-off. I'll certainly get to the game because it's only a mile along the road. So hopefully there's not an early goal just in case I'm a bit late coming in. But I'll go for 3-0. So we'll get 3-0, 3-1, 3-2. So as long as Rangers score 3, we should be fine.
Yeah. Happy with that.
And obviously, next Friday, I would imagine that you boys will be back on. I would imagine Gary might be here. I won't be because I'll be in Dingwall freezing my fucking nuts off. In fact, no, I don't think. No, there won't be a pod next Friday.
The main host has got to make an appearance sometime.
Well, but there won't be a pod next Friday because I'd like to think you'll be watching the game.
We'll all be watching the game, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
we'll all be watching the game.
So there won't be a pod next Friday. We might throw one in on Thursday night just to confuse everybody. We'll see. We'll see how the week goes. But keep your eye on all our socials, folks. You'll see what we're doing. Follow us on YouTube. Forgot what it was called there, and you'll get notifications. I believe you'll get notifications when we go live. So do that. Do the liking and sharing and all these things that Gary keeps going on about. I don't know how it all works, but I just
Facebook.
I mean, it's plug and play. Facebook, Twitter.
We just.
I believe we're on Instagram.
I believe we're on TikTok. We're on TikTok. I think we're on Instagram. Well, we're definitely on Instagram. We're on everything. So basically, your social media is just type in Blue Heart 1873. You'll find it.
But the only one we're not on is Tinder.
The three of us on. You speak for yourself.
I'm not.
John, you'll find John on plenty. You'll find John on plenty of fish. You'll him on. You also find him on Twitter. He's got himself a Twitter account. So get John McKinnon followed on the old Twitter sphere. Anyway, I'm just rambling, so I need to go and take my dog out. So
finish off, pal. Finish off.
You've outed me, Will.
So anyway, guys, was that outed you, John? Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So, yep, absolutely. So. John McKinnon in Brisbane, Australia. Thank you very much indeed.
All right.
Stuart Finlay in the north
John.
of England.
Everybody.
Thank you very much indeed.
Good day, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
I've been Wilfred. If you haven't, my name is Gary. Speak to you later. I need to find it. I'll need to do this properly. I'll need to find an outro for this. There we go. We'll do that one. Hopefully.